Hello and welcome to another weekly devotion with Pastor Andrew. That's me. So I just closed my email where I have our focus text and I'm refinding it. Here it is. Good. So we continue and we're really wrapping up this season of Pentecost, aren't we? I'm back in my Jeep, as you can see. I'm driving, I'm doing pastor errands. Very exciting. Yeah, all those good things. I can see that this is blocking. Oh, there, perfect. So here we are, and we are really pondering again this closing or beginning to close of the Pentecost season. Along with that, what do we contemplate right now? We contemplate not so much new lessons, right, of Christ, but we are contemplating continuing lessons. I would almost want to say life lessons, right? So as we heard this last Sunday, it's really so you've been faithful, you're living your life, you are moving along, but how do you continue to live that way? How do you continue to live in things as stuff comes up? And, I just think about it and I'm like, I hear that in there. And I really wonder too, and maybe that's the power of the gospel, the power of, as I said in this last Sunday, both the Old and New Testament working together, this basis of our faith, seeing it and seeing how it applies with modern day events, secular and contemporary day events. Everything seems to connect, doesn't it? So we heard from Amos last week. We continue to hear from Amos, this prophet. I'm thinking last week, I can't quite remember. I think we heard maybe I can't remember. It was either in chapter 5 or chapter 7, but this week we're in chapter 6. Yes, and it was, be wary, you who, in a sense, mistreat the poor or those that you think are lower than you. Not to get fire and brimstone, but it's like, because God's watching. Or because this can be seen, and this isn't the gospel. This isn't what you should be practicing. But we move to Amos and continue here in chapter 6. We begin with verse 1. I love this, 1a. And then it jumps to 4 through 7. As one of my peers said, 1a, isn't that just verse 1? Yeah, maybe. But I think they took out the connector to the next verse, which kind of was off topic. Anyway, Amos says, alas for those who are at ease in Zion, and for those who feel secure on Mount Samaria. The notables of the first of the nations to whom the house of Israel resorts. Oh, that's an interesting word, right? Resorts. Alas for those who lie on beds of ivory and lounge on their couches and eat lambs from the flock and calves from the stall, who sing idle songs to the sound of the harp and like David improvise on instruments of music, who drink wine from bowls and anoint themselves with the finest oils, but are not grieved over the ruin of Joseph. Therefore they shall now be the first to go into exile, and the revelry of the loungers shall pass away. So what's really happening here? If I remember correctly, what's the context? This is, if you remember, we talked, I mentioned this before, you had, in a sense, the promised land of Israel, and then there was a bit of a schism, and it broke into two kingdoms, and I believe this is the southern kingdom, which included Jerusalem. Don't quote me on this, but I do know there's the two kingdoms. The northern was very, Noreen. The northern kingdom was very involved, or I'm trying to think of the word, influenced by other kingdoms outside of, in a sense, the Israel people, right? You have Israel and Judah. These are the two kingdoms. But the Babylonians are coming. They're coming because they are taking over in several ways. And one of the things that happens is they say to those who are in power, we'll give you riches, we'll give you riches. Everyone is having riches. They're taking advantage of the people. In the midst of this, the riches they not only get from other kingdoms, but the riches they have because they're property owners. They're all, they're the rich. They're the elite. In our world, it's the 1%. So that's what we get. There you are. You're in Zion, right? The God's kingdom, the promised land, which God gave you. But, you lay on your beds of ivory. You lounge on your couches. You eat the finest meats. You sing songs of joy on the lyre or whatever. You drink fancy wines and you drink a lot of it. You bless yourselves with these oils, but you are not grieved. It says over the ruin of Joseph. Joseph, this is a reference to God's people. You're not caring for your neighbor, right? That's what's happening. You're taking care of yourself, but you're not taking care of your neighbor. You're not following the law. You're not, in a sense, although it's not really used in the Old Testament, you're not living the gospel. And Amos says, you shall now be the first to go into exile. That's something, I've talked about the exile before. We might just think, the Babylonians came in and they took everyone away and made them slaves. No, they took the rich. They took all those who were in power because the other ones are like, yeah, whatever, we're just going to rule over you. And they're actually like, you can stay here. But the rich, all those that had names connected to names, all those things, they were the ones taken away. And they were the ones that, honestly, what did the Babylonians do? They bred with them because they're like, well, we're going to just create better bloodlines and we're going to put our blood in you. Because that was the mindset. That's how you conquered another place, is you went in and made them your own. You know what I mean? So this is a warning. Amos is saying, you haven't done this. Care for these people. Watch out, right? Watch out. Things are coming. But did the people listen? They did not. So our devotional writer, let's see, writes this. Amos warned the people of Israel against their trust in their wealth, against their comfortability, warning them that if they continued in this way, the result would be exile. I wonder what part of life do we find ourselves being too comfortable with? Ooh, good question. Are we missing where God is leading us and guiding us to? Are we too comfortable in our wealth, in our possessions, in our location, in our calling, our vocations, that we're missing God's voice? Oh my gosh. Connection to the sermon from this last week, right? Where is God in this? We are faithful. We did all the things, but have we really, have we really? Like I said in my sermon, Christmas is coming. It's going to snow soon. The weather will be cold. We'll be entering the season of Advent and Christmas, preparing for the Christ child once again. And that should give us pause. That should give me pause to be like, oh, yes, I love this time of year. But instead, I'm worried about coordinating calendars. I'm busy. I'm, making meetings, and I'm doing all of this, and I'm forgetting what the meetings and the things are all about. Not just for me as a minister, but for all of us. This is what it's about. Christ, right, coming for us, for me, for the world, but also, how am I, right, as Christians, as the body, how are we caring for one another? How are we caring for one another? Not just this time of year, but all the time. That's what should be at the forefront. Yet it isn't. It isn't. And sometimes it just happens, right? Yes. Are we too comfortable in our wealth, our possessions, our location, in our calling or vocations, that we're missing God's voice? When I hear Amos say, woe to those who are at ease, woe to those who lie on beds of ivory and lounge on their couches, I'm reminded of how Jesus' Beatitudes warn us to be mindful and to take steps back from our comfort. They put it in there just for me. Comfortability, being comfortable. The other side of the situation is to think about the others in the world that don't have what we have. Yes. How are we caring for our neighbors in things that they need and just in general? How are we doing that? Especially, not a political thing here, but especially as things that have been in place are being taken away. And sometimes extremely subtly. But it's just like, oh, yeah, this works and this is how it always worked. And then suddenly we hit a wall. Wait, I thought my insurance covered that. I thought that this was taken care of. Why suddenly, just economics, right? I noticed as I went to grocery shopping last week, several of the stores have lowered prices on some things, but then increased prices on other things. And it's just, the cat food I used to buy that was $16 is now $20. But the dog food that I've bought before, that was less. So it's like, is it the ingredients? Is it all these things are fluctuating? You would think it'd all just go up or all go down. But everything's fluctuating. And then again, maybe I just never noticed. Who knows? But the point is, there's unexpected. And how are we dealing with that, right? And then where is God in this? How are we caring for one another? How are we doing those things? And you might hear that and go, that doesn't connect at all. I don't know what you're talking about. But again, caring for our neighbor and the call, not even just from Jesus, right? But all the way back. Hey, heed this warning. People didn't listen. All of that cyclical, the cyclical seems mistakes, right? The cyclical mistakes. Don't make the same mistakes I did. Well, we've been doing it for centuries, millennia, it seems. When will we learn? I hear those words from God. Woe to this generation. When will you learn? When will you listen? The frustration, the humanity, yet divinity of Christ, as he just says to us, will you not just listen? Sorry, you keep getting the glare from my glasses. So lots to think about as we continue in this week, as we, get to the 16th Sunday after Pentecost. I think Pentecost ends in the 20s. So, we're less than 2 months, right? Reformation's coming up soon. All Saints Day, and then Christ the King Sunday, all these festival Sundays together, and there's always that one. It's just like we did all these celebrations, and here's this one, and then we go into Advent. All of that's coming soon, once again, and just moving forward, right? Moving forward as best we can, however, centered in God, centered in Christ. So I'll just say here, I'll send out an email as well. I also just want to say thank you, because this last Sunday I was surprised as resurrection celebrated in food and fellowship. My upcoming this week, in fact, 20th ordination anniversary. I had someone say to me that I didn't know was a pastor, oh, you're a rookie. It's been a while since I've heard that, because I'm kind of a middle child. I'm not so much the younger pastors who have that vigor and excitement. I still have that, but I've been doing it a bit, but not so much the old guard and looking toward whatever, winding down. I'm just kind of in the middle. Maybe I can look at it this way. I'm at the peak, looking out upon God's creation, doing my thing, and we're doing it together. And let's rejoice in that. Yeah, that's good. That's positive. Anyway, thank you. Until next week. Oh, let's close in prayer. God, help us out of our comfort abilities. comfortabilities, and continue to challenge us to find ways that we can help one another. Help us to hear the woes that you call to our attention. Amen. I love of this pastor. Their nickname is Apple. Pretty cool. I don't have a cool nickname like that. I've been called other things, though. Anyway, until next week, God bless.